Hello, everybody. It's Tim here again, here with another BoomStick Critique review. I figured I would just jump in and do something a little different this time. I'm going to do a review for Guardians of the Galaxy, which, in my opinion, is a great space opera movie set in the Marvel Universe. I don't consider this a superhero movie. Some people do. To me, this isn't a superhero movie. This is like a space adventure comedy movie. Yeah, I think it's a great movie. I don't think it's an amazing movie. Some people, this movie's like really highly rated by some people, which if you love it that much, that's fine. That's cool. I do really like this movie. It is one of my favorite Marvel films, but this movie doesn't like blow me away. Something like The Dark Knight did, and that's not me trying to start like a Marvel versus DC thing. But honestly, even the Avengers I thought blew me away, more than this movie. To me, this movie is a great comedy space opera adventure film. That's what it is. It is one of the best Marvel movies, I will say, and one of the best of its kind. But I don't think it's one of the greatest movies ever made, though. But I do think it is one of the best space action adventure movies in a long time. I mean, the Star Wars prequels aren't very good, so we haven't really had a really good space action adventure movie like this in a long time. Pretty much you got Chris Pratt who plays Peter Quill, aka Star Lord. He always wants everybody to know he's Star Lord because he wants to be like an infamous, famous bounty hunter, which I thought was really hilarious. Every time somebody arrests him, he's like, who are you? And he goes, Star Lord. I'm like, who? I'm sure you've seen it all in the trailers a million times, but that's really funny. You got Dave Batista who plays Drax the Destroyer. He's pretty much like a comedy relief character because he never understands metaphors. Or like somebody would say something like, "Man, this is going over your head," and he'd be like, "Impossible. Nothing can go over my head. I would catch it first." I love that. He's actually really funny here. Dave Bautista actually surprised me in how well he plays this character, Drax the Destroyer. Rocket Raccoon is like this little CGI raccoon who's actually done really well, who's voiced by Bradley Cooper, who does a great job voicing him and actually changes his voice so much you can't even tell it's Bradley Cooper. So good cast in there. Vin Diesel voices Groot, and yes, all he does is say "I am Groot." He only says those words over and over until the end of the movie where he says "We are Groot," which is really a cool uplifting moment. I gotta hand it to him. Good idea there for James Gunn, the director of this movie, who also did Slither, which is a movie I'm not too fond of, but I haven't seen it in a long time though. I could change my mind on it, but he also did that. I believe he also wrote the remake of Dawn of the Dead, which thumbs up on that. I love the remake of Dawn of the Dead. But yeah, and you got Zoe Saldana playing the character of Gamora, and she looks hot in the green paint and everything because she's solid green. But yeah, she's actually the weakest character of the group because she's the least comedic and just the least interesting. Although she is good in the action, I will admit that. Pretty much you got this little kid, Peter Quill, who back in like the late 70s or whatever, his mom dies in a hospital and he runs outside and he gets abducted by aliens. Skip to the future, present time. He's in, his own. He's like a pretty much kind of like a freelance thief or whatever who gets paid to steal different stuff, and he like goes from different place to different place stealing rare space objects and shit, and takes it and sells it to the highest bidder. So that's how he makes a living. And then you got Thanos, which people who read the Marvel comics know Thanos is pretty much like Marvel's equivalent of Darkseid from DC. He's like this big, ultimate badass motherfucker played by Josh Brolin, who does a good job. I can't wait to see Thanos kick ass in Avengers 3, baby. And then you got Ronan, who's like Ronan the Accuser, played by Lee Pace. And he's kind of a weak villain. Marvel's villains have never been that great. Their heroes are always like excellent, but their villains are always weak, except for like the Winter Soldier from Captain America: The Winter Soldier. But I don't even really consider him a villain. He's more of like a victim. But yeah, other than him and Loki in the Avengers, I don't really like Loki too much in the first Thor movie. But other than him and Loki and the Loki version of Loki from the Avengers, other than the version of Loki from the Avengers and the Winter Soldier, Marvel's villains haven't really been that great, and this is another one in a long line of weaker villains. This guy's like a WWE type guy. He just screams and yells or whatever all the time, like, "I will cure it." He's like a big tall dude with a giant hammer, kind of like the Emperor from Mortal Kombat 2 for Nintendo. But yeah, he's kind of weak. But this movie's really centered on the heroes, and the villain kind of gets really underdeveloped. But the heroes are so much funny that honestly you don't give a shit really, because the movie's just got so much of a fun vibe to it. Pretty much you got one of the Infinity Stones. Who, if you've seen the other Marvel movies or read the comics, you know what I'm talking about. One of the Infinity Stones or gems or whatever. Peter Quill steals it. Ronan wants it because Thanos is like basically hired him to get it or whatever because Thanos wants it. So Ronan's hunting around trying to find it, and he sends Gamora after it, who is played by Zoe Saldana, which is like Thanos' daughter, adopted daughter, she actually hates Thanos. So she goes to kick Peter Quill's ass, take the orb or whatever. She ends up taking it, but lo and behold, there's two more people, bounty hunters, hunting after Peter Quill. Uh, um, Groot and Rocket Raccoon, who are great characters. I love Rocket Raccoon. Get a funny Stan Lee cameo where Rocket Raccoon's like looking at everybody in the city, and he sees Stan Lee there talking to a younger woman. And he's like, "Look at this pervert. Where's your wife at, pal?" I love that. That was a hilarious cameo. That's probably really Stan Lee at a convention. No, I'm just messing. I love Stan Lee though. He's great. I love seeing his cameos pop up in every movie. It could be honestly like a drinking game, like take a shot in each Marvel movie every time Stan Lee appears. But yeah, that's fun. Seeing Stan Lee show up all the time. You actually got John C. Reilly of all people in this movie. I never expected him to show up in here, but that's cool that he's there. Of course, you got the lineup scene where the characters are like getting photographed or whatever one by one. That's kind of neat. It's not exactly like the trailer showed it, but it's still a pretty good shot. Of course, you got Peter Quill giving them the finger or whatever, which is pretty funny. One funny thing about Groot, of course, is that he only says, "I'm Groot" for the whole movie. I actually love everybody's reactions. Like he's repeating the same thing over and over. Vin Diesel did a good job. I believe he did the motion capture for the character too, like did the mocap suit or whatever, and did the movements and stuff. So that's kind of neat. So whenever you see like the tree form a different facial expression and stuff, it's like it's him trying to emote different emotions through saying the same shit over and over. So I gotta give him a thumbs up on that. So he did good on that. He does a good job playing a tree. And Bradley Cooper's voice for the raccoon, yeah, it's like so different than his regular voice that I couldn't even tell it was him, honestly. I would have to have somebody tell me. He's definitely got an A for, he's got an A for effort in terms of voiceovers. He should definitely do more animated films and shit because he did great voicing this raccoon on here. Pretty much, one thing leads to another. They're a band of outcasts. They end up teaming up together. You meet Drax the Destroyer actually in prison, where he doesn't understand metaphors, which is hilarious. They all have a problem with Ronan and Thanos or whatever, so they end up teaming up together. They want to take the stone and keep it out of the hands, of Ronan and Thanos. So they team up together. You got a lot of great comedy in this movie. I love like Rocket Raccoon, how he's always like he always forms a plan, tells the characters to get specific items, and then when they bring certain things in to do the plan, it's shit they didn't even need. He's just fucking with them. I love that. That's hilarious. Like he tells Peter Quill to take this dude's leg, like prosthetic leg, to help him in a prison escape, and then when he brings it, he's like, "I got the leg. Man, I had to go through hell to get this." And he's like, "Oh, you actually got it? Nah, man, I was just messing with you. This is a joke." Did he look funny hopping around? That is comedy gold, man. That's great. So you really root for these characters because they're not really heroes. I mean, Peter Quill is the most decent one of the group because he's not really like a bad guy or nothing. He's just, a thief. He has to do what he has to do to get by. So, none of them are really evil. They just got to do what they got to do to get by in life, But they, they're the, unlucky members of this universe or whatever. They team up together. They decide to be heroes for once. This movie has a great soundtrack with a lot of cool, like 70s old school rock and stuff, David Bowie and stuff. A lot of great classic stuff. You get Benicio del Toro, who pretty much has a cameo in the movie, setting his character up for later films. He actually had a cameo at the end of Thor 2 in a bonus scene for people who've seen that film. He's the Collector, and if you look in the background, you can actually spot Howard the Duck. Now, Marvel fans will know who Howard the Duck is. Anybody else probably won't unless they've seen the George Lucas produced or whatever. Or did he direct that old Howard the Duck movie? I believe Lee Thompson was in that. I'm not for sure. It's been I know Tim Robbins was. It's been years, man, since I've seen Howard the Duck. I actually own it, but it's actually been years since I've seen it. I'm actually okay with Howard the Duck. Some people despise Howard the Duck. I'm like, it's a fucking talking duck, man. Come on. It's okay at best. Yeah, but seriously, back to this. But if you look in the background, you will see Howard the Duck as well as like a dark elf from Thor: The Dark World. So it's cool, you can spot like the Marvel references, Is that just looking in the background, you can spot them if you pay close enough attention. But yeah, that's cool. Of course, one of the stupid things here is like one of the Collector's like henchmen randomly grabs the gemstone or whatever, and is like, "I will no longer work for you, Collector," and then like everything blows up, and I'm like, what the fuck? You didn't really need that. That seemed like it was just thrown in just so they could get like a big explosion scene in. Drax, who wants revenge on Thanos or whatever, or Ronan the Destroyer or Accuser or whatever the fuck his name is, WWE Ronan, bad guy in the movie. Well, Drax wants revenge on him because Ronan killed his family, so he deliberately does something stupid and calls Ronan and his men to come in so he can fight them. It's kind of stupid, but you kind of let it go because he's in like such a wrathful moment. Ronan comes in, and this fight between Drax and Ronan, Drax is like this big tough motherfucker, and Ronan just dominates him. I mean, literally, like Drax is humongous, and he runs towards him, and Ronan just like hits him one time, knocks him back like 100 foot in the air. The fight is too one-sided. They should have let Drax do a little bit more. That was a little bit too one-sided. But at the same time, I mean, they got to show Ronan as being like so powerful. You know, not even the toughest member of the team in terms of strength. You know, Drax the Destroyer can't even take it, can't even hurt him, can't even damage him. So of course, you know, they all have to band together and kick his ass. So that makes sense, but at the same time, I wish he would have got in a few more hits, make the fight a little bit, you know, a little bit more exciting. But as it is, it's just a little bit quick. One thing leads to a. You actually got Michael Rooker in this movie as like a space pirate dude who was actually the one that took Peter Quill from Earth, and he was actually supposed to deliver Peter Quill to his dad. And you don't ever find out who Peter Quill's dad is. Yes, in the comics, yeah, he's revealed to be. I won't spoil it, but in the movies, they're gonna change it to something else, I believe. Sorry, my nose keeps itching. I don't know why, but yeah, they're gonna change it. They're gonna change his father's character into something else in the films. So we'll have to wait and see for that. But yeah, Michael Rooker is great and everything. He's got like this badass weapon where it's like this dart or whatever, or spear, where he can like whistle and it'll fly up in front of him, and he can keep whistling and he'll go through whatever's in front of him. But anyway, he's not really an evil person. He's kind of got his own strict code where he has to, you know, keep his cool and keep his image in front of his men. But you get the vibe that he really likes Peter Quill as like a father-son type thing. That he's really, you know, grown attached to him, and he really don't want nothing bad to happen to him, and he probably wouldn't even do anything bad to him anyway. But yeah, one thing leads to another, and he actually teams up with Peter Quill at the end so they can go destroy, you know, Ronan's ship or whatever and take his ass out, because Ronan has got the gemstone and he doesn't want to work for Thanos anymore because he's got the gemstone, you know, or one of the Infinity Gauntlets, and he wants to, you know, destroy everything himself and get revenge on this planet who was like had a treaty with his people. But he doesn't want to, you know, go with the treaty. He's like, fuck you guys, I'm destroying all of you. So he wants to destroy them. It's like Nova Prime is the name of the planet. And you actually got Glenn Close in here as one of the Nova Prime leaders or whatever. And I'm like, Glenn Close? What? Never expected her to show up. But yeah, that was kind of funny. I like Glenn Close, though. But I was like, Glenn Close? What? Really? Same thing I thought about John C. Reilly. What? Huh? You're in this? And John C. Reilly's partner is actually like the dude from Shaun of the Dead who played the character Pete on Shaun of the Dead. If you've seen Shaun of the Dead, you know who I'm talking about. I believe his name was Pete. He's like one of the first people that turns into a zombie. He's pretty funny on there, and he's even funny on here. He actually gets killed, though. He gets blowed up by Thanos or whatever. I mean, not Thanos, but Ronan. But anyway, they all go to fight Ronan. They're all trying to kick his ass. You get Rocket Raccoon flying around in his ship, which is really cool. He's blowing shit up. They manage to actually get aboard, and you get this hilarious scene where Drax the Destroyer is talking about he like Gamora has a sister in the movie who's made up of like robot parts, and she's still working for Thanos. For some reason, it never really clarifies that, like why is she working for Thanos? Because she hates Thanos too. Why doesn't she join up with Gamora? It never really makes sense with that. But the movie's just meant to be fun. And the problem with the movie is anytime it tries to get deeper in the characters of like their personal, you know, emotional type stuff, the movie never really pulls it off. But other than that, though, it really does fine. Other than that, it's really fine. I mean, the movie is really able to carry its own other than that. And everything's, though, I mean, other than those little weak points where it's not able to pull emotional stuff off, other than that kind of stuff, the movie really does a good job at carrying itself in terms of the action and the comedy and having the characters be real fun. So they managed to, but yeah, Drax the Destroyer has a really funny line where he like blows Gamora's sister away with a weapon he's got, you know, right before she attacks Gamora or whatever, and he says, this dumb tree, he's my friend. And then he's talking about Gamora, and he says, and this green whore, she is my friend too. But yeah, Drax the Destroyer is hilarious. I love his comedy here. He's really funny. Batista plays him really well. Yeah, he's really great and hilarious here. Batista is. And then you get this hilarious scene right after that where Groot is standing there and all these men coming out there that work for Ronan. They're going to attack him. And Groot actually throws his tree branches into him. Starts like bouncing the characters, like, I mean, the people up and down like that. And just like beats the ever-loving hell out of them and then slings them down. And then looks back at Drax the Destroyer and Peter Quill and does like a really fucked up smile. It's hilarious though the way he does it. That was a hilarious scene. When I watched this in theater, everybody cracked up at it. They go to fight Ronan. They use like this super powerful weapon on him. They blast him with it. It doesn't work. Ronan's still alive, but the ship crashes. You got this cool scene where Groot like makes a like a force field ball or whatever around them, and he says, "We are Groot," you know, because he sees everybody as his family. And so, you know, Groot sacrifices himself, and he gets burned up in the ship, and he pretty much dies, or so you think dies. But there's actually a little stick of him left, so they can regrow him. So yeah, he's not actually dead. It's another thing, Marvel, a little fake death thing, you know, in these Marvel movies is kind of getting old. But this movie has such a charming, you know, lighthearted quality to it. I really couldn't see anybody dying in this movie, really, other than the side characters. But yeah, you got that. Ronan shows up, and then they all decide to band together to take him out. And I love this, how Peter Quill distracts him by doing like just jumping around dancing, and he's like, "What are you doing?" Ronan is, and he goes, "It's a dance off, man, you and me." I love that. That was hilarious. And then one thing leads to another. They all join hands. Sorry, my nose is still itching. All the Guardians of the Galaxy join hands, and then they got the Infinity Gauntlet in their hands, and they use that power from that to disintegrate Ronan in a cool special effect. It's really cool, and they're like, "We're the Guardians of the Galaxy, bitch." That's a great ending for the movie. And so it ends the movie on a happy note. They save the day. They end up taking the Infinity Stone with them, and you know, they save the day. Michael Rooker actually thinks he has it. He thinks Peter Quill gave it to him, but he opens up the ball, and it's actually like one of them old '80s trolls with the frizzed up hair from the '80s. I love that. That was funny. But yeah, so they do that. That's funny. So yeah, that was a really funny ending with the troll thing. I love that getting thrown in there. And so right after that, they pretty much head out into space, you know, to go to. They go see John C. Reilly first, and all their records have been expunged because Rocket Raccoon actually helped save John C. Reilly's family, who was on the planet when they were being attacked by one of Ronan's men who were in a ship trying to blast them. So Rocket the Raccoon actually saved them, so that was sweet. And so their records are all expunged, you know, by the Nova Prime Corps or whatever, and they're all free to go. And they take off, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" They're like, "Something bad, something good, a little bit of both." It's pretty funny. So they're all friends now, and he opens up his like letter from his mom that she wrote him right when she died, and it says she calls him her little Star Lord, which makes, you know, sense of where he got the name from. So real sweet ending, great movie. Chris Pratt does fine. All the actors are fine. Gamora is the weakest character in the movie because she's the least humorous and least interesting. But yeah. Or, well, at least the least humorous, the least fun. When all the other characters are fun, they kind of steal spotlight from her. She's the most serious. So yeah, other than little weak points there and how the movie can't really play up the emotional, you know, arcs of the characters exactly right and get in more in depth with them. Other than that kind of stuff, the movie really plays itself out fine. So yeah, all in all, 4 stars. Great space adventure movie, and I highly recommend it. And I'll see you guys again with a review for Predator.